Hello, I'm Roger Bill. St. John South Mount Pearl is one of two urban ridings in Newfoundland and Labrador. St. John's East is the other, and they're both held by the NDP. Jack Harris represents St. John's East, and Ryan Cleary represents St. John South Mount Pearl. When the party leader comes to town, he's wise enough to credit them both for tutoring him on a key local issue like the fishery.
And I know, because I can tell you, Ryan Cleary and Jack Harris have made sure that I know that the current last-in, first-out policy threatens the livelihood of shrimp fishermen and their families, and an NDP government will fix this.
In the federal elections of 2000, 2004, and 2006, the Progressive Conservative Party and then the Conservative Party owned the riding that is now called St. John South Mount Pearl. But in 2008, Danny Williams, the province's premier, had a falling out with Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and he mounted a campaign called ABC, Anybody But Conservative. Danny Williams called Stephen Harper a fraud, and the members of the St. John's Board of Trade stood and applauded. And then the Conservative share of the vote in St. John South Mount Pearl plummeted from 44% in 2006 to 12% in 2008, and then the NDP captured the seat in 2011. Ryan Cleary ran on the same anti-Harper platform and captured the seat for the NDP.
It's funny, because people say that, or the question that journalists keep asking is how are things going to turn out with no ABC campaign? There may be no official ABC campaign, but there's still a strong distaste for Stephen Harper and all that he stands for, because he doesn't stand for Newfoundland and Labrador. That's going to work for me.
That was Ryan Cleary in 2011. In 2015, not much has changed.
Stephen Harper's name is mentioned at most doors, and the mention is the fact that I am not voting for Stephen Harper. But you know, the number one issue at the doors, the number one issue in my riding office in terms of constituency work, what people talk most about after they say they're not voting for Stephen Harper, what they're talking about is seniors' issues. It's the fact that seniors don't have enough money to live on. That is the number one issue. I had a number one issue in the riding. I had a woman last week, this is an example. She's 82 years old. She calls me up. She stays in a one-bedroom place, and she pays $900 a month for her rent. And she was calling me because her rent was going up by $50 a month. Now she's on a fixed income, and there's no way that she can pay that extra $50. So she called me up to say, help me find a place to live. Now, this is an 82-year-old woman, but that's reflective of the overwhelming topic at the doors is seniors, people on fixed incomes not having enough to get by on.
So how frequently do you hear Stephen Harper's name mentioned when you're at doors?
Every day. If I had one of these tickers, it'd be just going solid. It'd be going steady. I hear it constantly. I am not voting for Stephen Harper.
What do you think explains why we are now less than a month away from the election, and the Conservatives have just found a candidate for St. John South Mount Pearl, like literally just today?
I'll be interested in hearing who that candidate is. I've said before, though, that whoever runs for the Conservatives either wants a Senate seat or some kind of appointment, because they'll be taking one for the team. If there's one thing that I am absolutely confident of in terms of the outcome of this election, that is that people are not going to be voting for Stephen Harper or for his candidates.
Do you think the Conservatives will be shut out in Newfoundland again?
Take it to the bank.
Now, of course, friends, our fragile economy is growing. We are on track to grow our economy for the 7th straight year. Why is that, friends? How do you protect a fragile economy and keep it moving forward, especially in the face of global economic instability?
When Stephen Harper made his one and only visit to the province, he was not joined on the stage by a local member of Parliament. With the exception of one contest in Labrador, the last time a Conservative candidate won a seat in Newfoundland was 2006. And the outlook for 2015 is not much brighter.
And let's also not be secret about this. As we implement it for the next 4 years, we need Newfoundlanders and Labradorians around the cabinet table and the caucus votes helping us implement it.
The Conservative candidate in St. John South Mount Pearl is Merrick Kroll. Mr. Kroll is from Ontario. His Newfoundland roots are shallow at best. In a biography posted on his campaign website, he says he has a landscape business in Woodbridge, Ontario, and he produces a reality TV program called Living Wild. Mr. Kroll has posted several video excerpts on his campaign website. One is identified as a promo, though it's in fact a pitch for funding for a second season of Living Wild.
If you guys help us, we have pretty much anything you want. Jackets, t-shirts, hats, survival kits. Even Michael can cook for you guys. You can go hunt with us.
Unfortunately, Mr. Kroll didn't respond to messages inviting him to do an interview for this episode of Campaign Politics. I would have liked to have asked him about a reference he'd made in one of the excerpts from the Living Wild program, where he said he thought it would be a really good idea to have a dinner on an iceberg. But the first question I would have asked him is, where do you live? When trying to locate the Conservative candidate in St. John South Mount Pearl, I asked the Elections Canada returning officer for the riding for a copy of Mr. Kroll's nomination papers. On his nomination papers, he identifies his permanent residential address as a unit in an apartment building in St. John's. He also identifies it as the address for his campaign office. I would also have liked to ask Mr. Kroll if the electors who signed his nomination papers were Conservative Party members in St. John South Mount Pearl, or just people he met by going door to door in the apartment complex at 21 Lansom Meadows Crescent. Mr. Kroll needed to gather the names of 100 electors in the riding to qualify to be a candidate. 18 of the names on his nomination papers listed their address as 21 Lansom Meadows Crescent. Since we couldn't ask Mr. Kroll, we decided to try and contact people who signed his nomination papers. I reached some people by phone and others by visiting what the candidate claims is his permanent residential address.
My name is Roger Bill. I'm a reporter.
Yes.
I work with the Cable Public Affairs channel, CPAC, and I'm recording conversations with people whose names are on Mr. Merrick Kroll's nomination papers.
Okay.
Do you remember signing his nomination papers?
Yes.
I'm curious, did you know him or did he just come knocking on your door or what?
If by some miracle he was elected in this area, would he take up a residence in Newfoundland? And he said, no, his home was in Ontario. So I told him that, yeah, I'll sign your sheet for you because I know you will not be elected here. Otherwise, I wouldn't sign it. I said, well, you know, I really keep tuned in to politics, and I do watch CPAC. And he said, well, you know, it's not important to have someone live in the area.
Craig Westcott has worked as a journalist in Newfoundland for almost 30 years, but he has also run for office for the Conservative Party on one occasion and worked on the staff of the Liberal Party on another.
The Conservatives in St. John South Mount Pearl, they could get 10%. And that's, I think, in 2008. I'm not sure what they got in 11, but it was around that area.
They might not even get their rebate for half their expenses.
Ever since the ABC campaign, the Conservatives are a non-entity in Newfoundland and Labrador, and it's a real shame for the voter because it means one less choice on the ballot. It limits our options, and it, you know, if the Conservatives win again, and that's conceivable, we'll go another 4 years. We've just done 7 without a member, not only in the Conservative caucus, but more importantly, without anyone in the Conservative cabinet from this province. And that's a long time to go without any representation in Ottawa.
Let's talk about the candidate the Conservatives are running. What can you tell us about the candidate?
Absolutely nothing. I don't know who he is. I don't know if I can spell his name. I've heard it. It's a Kroll. But the same is true for the Green Party candidate. I know there's a Green Party candidate. I couldn't tell you their name. I mean, other than O'Regan and Cleary, there's no real presence by any other party in this riding.
Why would the Conservative Party, which has a well-deserved reputation for strategy, Why wouldn't they run the nephew of a conservative senator? Why wouldn't they get a sacrificial lamb out of the young conservatives at the university? Why did they anoint this person from Ontario to be the candidate in St. John South Mount Pearl?
Yeah, obviously because they couldn't. I mean, it's just that bad for the Conservative Party of Canada in Newfoundland.
In a riding where retail, face-to-face politics still matter, it is clear the Conservative candidate in St. John South Mount Pearl has his work cut out for him. How are you going to vote?
I'm voting NDP.
How'd you vote last time?
Conservative. Never again.
Why not?
You know the answer to that one.
Let me ask you another question then.
Get rid of him, boy.
Do you know the name of the Conservative candidate in St. John South Mount Pearl?
St. John South Mount Pearl. Conservative. No, I don't.
Do you know the name of the Conservative candidate in St. John South Mount Pearl?
Cleary.
NDP.
That's NDP, yeah. Oh,
Conservative.
Conservative. I don't want no.
Do you know the name of the Conservative candidate in the election? Do you know the name of the Conservative candidate?
No.
It's a man named Merrick Kroll. Ever hear of him? No. Do you know who the Conservative candidate is in St. John South Mount Pearl?
No.
Ever hear of a man named Merrick Kroll?
No. Never heard of him.
He's the Conservative candidate.
Okay.
He believes that having dinner on an iceberg is a very good idea.
Well, I work on a boat. It's not a very good idea. On an iceberg having dinner? No, I wouldn't advise it.
Who here is excited about hearing Justin Trudeau speak here in Mount Pearl? No, really, tell me, don't hold back. How excited are you?
The Liberals hold 5 of the province's 7 seats, and they believe they have a good chance of reclaiming St. John South Mount Pearl, which they lost to the NDP in 2011. The candidate is Seamus O'Regan.
Let me tell you, there'll be another party in this election that will say that they are about change. Well, let me tell you, change does not come with an asterisk on the end of it that says, but only if we balance the budget according to Stephen Harper's numbers. That is not change. That is not change. Real change. Real change. Real change. You can hold that poster higher. Yeah, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Real change comes with being honest with people, with being upfront with people, by telling them that it is important to invest in Canadians and to invest in Canada right now. Now is the time that we do that. And then don't you worry. This is a party that balanced the budget and got us surpluses for 13 years. We know what we're doing. They can nibble on their Swiss cheese. But what we present to the Canadian people are the real numbers. And we presented them new ideas, real ideas, because we believe in Canada. We believe in Canadians, and we believe in Newfoundland and Labrador. That's the difference. And that is why I'm so happy to see so many of you here today, because you get it.
I love your hat. What's your name?
Bailey.
Hey, Bailey. Seamus.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
The dog's freaking out at you.
Yeah, I know. Mine too would be freaking out right now, too. Bit of information there on me.
Okay.
This is our plan,
yeah,
which will help 9 out of 10 Canadian families. So just take a look at that.
Okay.
When it says Harper's plan, it's the NDP plan as well. So not passing judgment. You just, take a look at it. Love to have your vote.
Okay. Thank you.
That's totally up to you.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And October 19th is the election day.
Okay. Perfect.
And sorry about all this.
No, that's okay.
Seamus O'Regan believes he is in a close race with the NDP incumbent, Ryan Cleary. Seamus, how come you're doing this?
I'm doing this because, frankly, it's something I've always wanted to do, and the timing seemed to be right. It's one of those cases where you see somebody or a government that's in power that you think is tired and should go, and certainly is no friend to this province. And you see a leader who's got so much potential, character, and who's absolutely right for this province. And you know, I know him, and I want him to do well. And you just can't stand to one side. At some point, you just say, I gotta dive in. I gotta get in the arena. If you really care about this stuff, like I believe I do, then you gotta be in there. I really, honestly, and I didn't think I would enjoy it, but I love going door to door. I thought it would be such a massive intrusion on people. And when I first started, it was just, you know, I'm a good boy, you know, your upbringing. Gosh, I mean, the last time I rang a doorbell was like this, I was collecting, you know, evening telegram money. I mean, we're a block away from my paper route right now. And now now you're collecting, I guess, in a different way. But you're asking for somebody's vote. People will say to you, you know, you'll hand them, you know, this card which has a bit of my biography and who I am and what we, you know, beginning of what we stand for and how to get in touch with me, and you hand it to them, and they'll look at it carefully and they'll look at both sides, and then they'll say, "Best of luck to you now." And I have no idea what that means. You know, so people are, you know, they're very nice. Now I know if I get a don't look at me, you know, no eye contact, best of luck to you now, I don't have their vote. But now if I get a best of luck to you now, that's a possible.
I don't know if you think the race is close between you and Mr. Cleary, but a lot of people do. What do you think will move the decision one way or the other?
One thing that I learned very early on is there's only so much I can handle. There's only so much that I can do. And I tell myself this to keep my anxiety level down. The truth is, what I need to do is win the seat. And that is done by door to door to door to door. A lot of people know who I am, but like any good Newfoundlander or Labradorian, they want to see you work for it. So I work for it every day. And after that, I think what will turn it between Ryan and myself will be how our leaders perform, how our platforms do, how our parties do. And that is beyond my control. What I am able to control is waking up early, not as early, thankfully, but early every morning, and going to bed late at night and working this every day, and going to every single door that I can and respectfully asking people for their vote. After that, you know, there's a lot that's out of my hands.
It will be a surprise if voters don't re-elect Jack Harris in St. John's East. And it will be a surprise if the Liberals don't hold their 5 seats in the province. But according to journalist Craig Westcott, only St. John South Mount Pearl may be close.
The Liberal candidate, Seamus O'Regan, as a former television personality nationally, he worked on Canada AM for years, lived out of the province for 10 or 12 years, has come back as an expat to seek a seat for the Liberals. And up until now, his biggest selling point, the thing he kept putting out there, was that he's close personal friends with Justin Trudeau, as if that's justified why voters should vote for him.
When you talk about Seamus O'Regan, it's almost as if he's a candidate who's being parachuted into the riding, except he does have some Newfoundland roots.
Well, he does have Newfoundland roots, yeah, but he was away for a long time, and it seems the only reason he came back here was to run in this race.
Hey guys, don't mind the cameras. Pleasure to meet you, Bob. It's a pleasure to meet you, guy.
Bob?
Bob?
It's Darren. Nope.
Darren.
Bob.
Darren
I'm in
and
your
Bob.
district, actually.
Good, fine. Where do you live?
Kilbride.
Oh, right on. We were just knocking on doors in Kilbride.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say, if you wanted to put a few signs up at me land, it's
It is sometimes said of professional athletes that they work hard to make it to the big leagues, but even harder to stay there. The NDP incumbent in St. John South Mount Pearl seems to have learned that lesson.
The NDP guy, Ryan Cleary, comes out of newspaper journalism, and he's a self-styled Newfoundland patriot, literally wears a Newfoundland pin on his chest. He says he views everything through a Newfoundland Labrador lens. It's Newfoundland patriotism, almost ad nauseum.
You describe the New Democratic candidate, Ryan Cleary, as a self-styled patriot. It doesn't sound like a compliment.
Doesn't sound like a compliment. One thing we suffer from in Newfoundland is that I think we've had an inferiority complex for years, right? So Newfoundlanders love stories about how Newfoundlanders away succeed. President of a university here, director of a hospital here, things like this. It was the secret of success behind Danny Williams. He beat this drum. Newfoundlanders are wonderful. We're smarter than everybody else. And Cleary has picked up the same theme.
Ryan Cleary isn't the first federal candidate from Newfoundland to wrap himself in the Newfoundland flag. In fact, it has been a staple of Newfoundland politics since Confederation. Sometimes it's an interesting act, but sometimes it has the ring of authenticity.
I first ran in 2008, and the people that we had, the core of my campaign were my family. My mother, my mother's sisters. My mother's sisters all married U.S. servicemen. They moved to the States, but they came home to help in my campaign. And one of my mom's sisters who came home was a woman named Judith Gray, and she was head of the Arkansas Bar Association, believe it or not. So she came home, she worked the phones, she worked the doors, she worked on my campaign, and she also came up with a jingle. She came up with a jingle for my campaign in 2008, which we didn't use because we had no money. And so after the 2008 campaign, which just with the core of my family, I only lost by, I don't know, 700 or 800 votes, whatever it wasn't that much. But after the election, my aunt went back to the States, and she was walking down over a set of stairs with a cup of tea in her hand, fell down, broke her neck, and died. So my mother and her sisters made it a mission to take the jingle that she had written for my election in 2008, and she made it their mission to get this jingle on the air. So now it's going on the air in a couple of weeks. Here we go.
Oh, clearly, it's Cleary, our voice for Newfoundland. Let's send Ryan back to Ottawa, he'll make them understand. He'll fight for our land, and for us he'll take a stand. We'll never have a voice as strong as Cleary.
That's from my Aunt Judith.
2015 will mark the 6th time voters in St. John South Mount Pearl have gone to the polls in the federal election since 2000. Once, the Conservatives owned this riding, but no more. Memorial University political science professor Kelly Bladuc has watched the decline.
Ryan Cleary is somebody who I think does a very good job of being a local MP. He really focuses on local issues. He's very good about being present on the ground. He's capable of being loud, which I think sometimes you need to be. So under normal circumstances, I would have said he's probably going to hold on. He's done all the right things that you do to be an incumbent MP. You bring in star factor like O'Regan and it changes a bit, right? Somebody that you see all the time on television. I would tend to think that the NDP goes into this still in the better position. And I've certainly heard suggestions that the Liberals are not doing particularly well in that case. But it's clear they're going to fight for that riding. Trudeau coming in, I think, helps their case. I think they had a really good rally, at least in terms of turnout, the other night. But my tendency would be to say that Cleary has done the things that you do to get reelected. There's no real reason otherwise to not reelect him. So under normal circumstances, I would say, while he may not have a huge lead, I would tend to think he'd still be the person who would hold on.
What do you make of the fact that the Conservatives did not have a candidate in that riding until less than a month left in the campaign?
I think they're actually having a hard time finding people who want to carry the party banner. I don't think it's a problem of having a certain amount of loyal people, but I do think the number of people who say, I want to give up some time, I want to make some effort, I'm going to do, put my name on signs, that's a much bigger step than just saying I support the party and I'll vote for them in the next election, or I'll show up to the meetings, when they're held. So I think that has inevitably been the situation, and given the timing of a lot of the people that they've had to find around the province, how late in the game it's been, I think the only credible explanation is that they ultimately maybe had to twist some arms and take whatever they could get. That you can only piss in so many people's mugs, and suddenly, you don't have any friends anymore. I don't know that that's the case, but I do think that the evidence we have suggests that the Conservatives have certainly had a hard time finding quality candidates.
Voters in St. John South Mount Pearl are being offered a fourth choice on the ballot on October 19th. The Green Party candidate in the riding is Jackson Mclain. He says his lawn signs are recycled from an earlier Green campaign, and he expects to spend, at most, a few $100s.
I've been involved with environmental movement for years now. In university, I've worked for environmental groups, and it just seemed like the logical progression for me to get involved with the Green Party, and they asked me if I wanted to run, and I said yes.
What message do you want to convey to voters during this campaign?
There's a few messages that we want to convey as the Green Party. For Newfoundland specifically, I would say food security issues are a huge deal right now. We want to promote local farmers, farmers markets, try to stay within the 100-mile diet is the way that we say it, and other issues. So we want to talk about climate change, the impacts that it's having right now, and the disastrous impacts that it could have in the future. We want to try and prepare for that and prevent it if we can.
What are your expectations?
I'm not expecting to win this race. Like that's not my goal. My goal is to give the Green Party supporters a person to vote for. And I want to inspire young people to get involved in politics as well.
When you meet voters, and I know you've been busy getting your 100 signatures for your nomination paper, but as you meet voters, what kind of response are you getting? What are people saying to you?
I've been getting a positive response. I haven't had any negative responses. I was surprised because I was a bit worried running for the Green Party in Newfoundland that people might be confrontational, but everybody's been positive and supportive, and it's really given me hope for politics and for the province and the country.
When the ballots of voters in St. John South Mount Pearl are counted on October 19th, many will be watching closely. Who wins and who loses, and whether it signals something larger, are obviously important. But there may be something else to note on election night. Loyola Hearn won the riding that is now called St. John South Mount Pearl 3 times, in 2000, 2004, and 2006, as a progressive conservative and then as a conservative. Loyola Hearn is also credited with being one of the architects of the 2003 merger of the Progressive Conservative Party and the Canadian Alliance Party and the creation of the modern Conservative Party of Canada. The national party Loyola Hearn helped create has held power in Canada for 10 years. But here at home, in the riding he once dominated, his legacy may not have the same glow of success.